Oh, I was moving so much, dude. I thought I didn't have the shutter. Released in the late 1970s, the Polaroid 600 SE was designed specifically for the professional photographer. Interchangeable lenses, film backs, full manual control over your exposure. There was a lot about this camera that just wasn't available in other instant cameras on the market, and even today, it's still a pretty unique camera, and it's one of my favorites, so I wanted to kind of share a little bit about the camera. This format and process is just so much fun in general, and it's also just very messy. I forgot just how much paper and plastic and just stuff is everywhere. But I wanted to bring it out anyway and have some fun and just share a little bit about the camera's history and just what makes it so special. For starters, unlike most instant film cameras, you do have interchangeable lenses on this system. So you have a 75mm, that's going to be your wide lens, a 127mm for your normal, and then a 150mm, that's going to be your portrait or telephoto focal length. The only lens I have for the camera is the 127mm f4.7, and at first you might think that that's not a very fast lens, but working with a film of this size, if you've never shot pack film before, it's roughly 3¼ by 4¼ so it's sort of between, you know, a 4x5 sheet of film and a medium format negative. If you've never shot with it before, think of it roughly in that size. I mean, this is the size of your photo here. Think of this as the negative. So f4.7, it's very, very shallow depth of field, wide open with this thing. And unfortunately for me, with this lens, my lens is actually stuck wide open at f4.7. It was like that when I bought it, so I knew what I was getting myself into. I wanted to pick up something to shoot my last few packs of FP-3000B, and Raymond Molinar, actually, shout out to him, amazing skateboarder and photographer. He mentioned he had this 600 SE for sale, and it had a lens that was stuck at f4.7. I figured for a good price, why not go ahead and pick it up, and I try to work around it with my ND filter, and you'll see more about that in a bit. But another thing that's great about these lenses, not only just being interchangeable, they're also leaf shutter lenses. So if you aren't already aware about leaf shutter lenses, this is going to allow you to sync your flash at any of the speeds. Traditionally, with something like a focal plane shutter, you're going to be maxed out somewhere, especially on these older cameras. It can be pretty slow. So having something like this, 1/500th of a second, if I wanted to use flash in that environment, I can sync it all the way up to that speed. And again, at the time, having the instant ability of being able to check your lighting, check your exposures for photographers in the studio, something like this was just great. The camera body itself, outside of the viewfinder and rangefinder, there really isn't much to it or anything going on. There's nothing mechanical or electronic happening inside the camera. It's really just serving as a bridge between the lens and the film back, and your viewfinder on top. Again, the rangefinder inside there. You do have frame lines for two of the lenses. You have the 127 and the 150mm frame lines. So as you switch that back and forth, as you switch lenses, you're going to see different frame lines according to the focal length. However, if you're going to use the wide lens, the 75mm, that's going to come with a little optical viewfinder that you would just mount up here on top of the cold shoe. On the left side of the camera body, you also have your grip and cable release. This is just threaded directly into the lens, the same way you would thread in any other threaded cable release, which you could also use if you ever wanted to swap those out if you're doing long exposures on a tripod or something. But typically this is how you're actually going to release the shutter, just with the left grip and the trigger here. You also do have another cold shoe on top here as well, for, you know, different accessories, things like that. And there's also typically a leather strap here on the side here of the grip, but mine also did not come with that. On the back of the camera, again, what makes this camera so special, the modularity. You have the ability to swap between different film backs and even roll film backs to shoot between different formats. You've got these little locking levers on the side here, and you just make sure your dark slide is in, which again, my copy did not come with. Still got that Raymond Molinar sticker on the bottom though, so we're still doing all right. But if you're changing lenses, if you're changing film backs, you have to make sure you have the dark slide, because this camera will just let you remove the back entirely, dark slide or not. And if you remove the lens, remove the back, there's nothing else protecting that there. So this particular one, this is my only film back and my only lens, so neither ever really leave the camera body. But still, just know that if you're ever out there and you're switching things out, make sure you have the dark slide. But trying to work within my exposure limitations with this camera and this film speed, 3200 speed film, f4.7 lens, and a maximum shutter speed of 1/500th of a second, any daylight basically, and it was just completely cooked. So I carried around my little 2 to 5 stop ND filter. It's normally just used for video. It also has a little bit of diffusion in it, so it's a little bit of a softening filter. So I just had that in my pocket, had it set to 5 stops, and just held it in front of the lens. It's an 82mm filter thread, so I knew it would just cover the entire front element here, and just kind of held it in front and hoped for the best. Even then, I was maxed out, and my highlights were still just barely on the edge, and it was supposed to be a pretty cloudy day, and the sun came out and ruined everything. It was challenging, for sure, to find any kind of workable exposure in that range, but we still went out and still had a good time. And just this film in general, FP-3000B, it's definitely, like, out of all the discontinued films out there, if I could bring one back and just keep it in production forever, it would be this one. It's just such a special film. It has an amazing look to it, not only in the print, but the negative. Scanning the negative, it's one of my favorite looks out of any film format ever. I have bags and bags and boxes of prints and negatives from this film from like a decade ago. As a matter of fact, it was 10 years ago when I sold my original 600 SE. Sold that to JT Rhodes, another skateboarder, photographer, shout out to him. That was one of the cameras I sold at the time to help fund my M6 when I bought that camera. So this has been a camera that I've loved for a long time, and FP-3000B especially. It's fun. I had a good time going out and shooting with Tyler, and in the process to get this, really fun, unique negative and print, everything about it, it's a messy process and there's waste everywhere. It drives me nuts. That's one thing I don't like about it. And I tried to be prepared for this as I was thinking about us going out and shooting this video. I'm like, how do I, carry all this stuff around with me? Because I used to go on hikes with cameras like this and other pack film cameras and, walking around dangling negatives that are still drying as I'm walking through the woods, everything being covered in sticks and dust and everything. I tried to come correct, so I got this little air duster here that's rechargeable, and I just brought this with me, and as I was shooting the photos, I would just dust things off and then just slot it into a notepad. And I've got to say, my prints have never been cleaner. These are the cleanest peel apart prints I think I have ever had. That was definitely a good idea, and I think had I remembered to take the negatives out at the end of the day before they were 100% dry, I think all the negatives would have looked great as well. Unfortunately, we had some casualties, but you live and you learn. It was a good idea. Maybe not the best idea, but we're getting somewhere. But the prints did turn out beautiful, so it's not a complete loss. And as a matter of fact, if you'd like to purchase any of these original one-of-one instant prints, Polaroids, or any other Polaroids that I might want to include in there, I'll tell you how you can do that right now while we thank our sponsor, Squarespace. 10 years ago when I launched mattdayphoto.com, I chose to launch that with Squarespace because at the time it just seemed like a no-brainer. They kind of had everything I needed. 10 years later, it's still the same. They are the best all-in-one place to build a website. Back then, 10 years ago, I was primarily a wedding photographer, so I needed a place to just show my portfolio, have a way for clients to reach out and get in contact with me. Nowadays, my work and what I share and how I make a living through my YouTube videos and selling books and prints, it looks completely different, but everything I need to do, I can still do it with the same website, mattdayphoto.com. You can customize and make changes to things at any time, and it's all incredibly easy and quick. I added these photos to my online shop in a matter of 5 minutes. It really takes no time at all. However, if you do need help, they have 24/7 award-winning customer service. If you want to try it out for yourself, you can do so entirely free at squarespace.com. But when you're ready to get signed up, go to squarespace.com/mattday. That'll save you 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and for all of their support here on the channel. After I finish this pack of FP-3000B, I think the Goose is going to be officially retired and just sitting on the shelf. I do know a lot of people like to mod this camera. It's a pretty good camera for modification, just given its design. And that has been, at least a thought in my mind. So I don't know. Let me know what you think I should do with the camera. Shelf piece, maybe customize it, do something fun with it. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Any other thoughts or ideas? anything you have. I'd love to keep the conversation going down below. Also, since we're talking instant film today, I guess I should tease that this September I will be attending New York City for the very first time. My dear friends at Brooklyn Film Camera are going to be having me. More on that soon, but I'm incredibly excited and honored. Huge shout out to everybody at Brooklyn Film Camera. Kyle, someone I've known for a long time now, and looking forward to it. So if you want to see me in New York City, I'll have more information on that soon. Yeah, that's it for this video. I'm going to keep filming and work on another video, but I'll see you guys soon in the comments and elsewhere. Love you all very much. I'll see you guys soon.